January the 25th, 2024. We as a commission operate under the Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Chapter 26 of the Town of Danvers General Bylaw, the Wetlands Protection Bylaw. After each applicant presents his or her request and the board has had time to ask questions and discuss the project, we will accept questions from the audience. Because this is a public meeting, it is required by law that you give your name and address before you speak. Although we may disagree on the issues raised, all persons present during this meeting are expected to be civil to all other meeting attendees. This includes members of the commission, staff, abutters, concerned citizens, property owners, and project applicants. We also request that you confine your questions to the project and only as it pertains to the Wetlands Act. We cannot handle, nor do we have jurisdiction over matters such as noise or traffic. All problems not related to the Wetlands Protection Act and the Town of Danvers Wetlands Protection Bylaw must be taken up with other appropriate boards. All right, our first order of business is a roll call. Peter Wilson is present. Vanessa Curran? Present. Jonathan Garius? No. Mary Haight? No. Ann McGill? Here. Michael Splain?
Yeah.
All right, so there's 4 members present, so that's a quorum. First order of business is notice of intent for 21 Tibbetts Ave, DEP file number 14-1409. The applicant is Philip Suddenfeld. And Mr. Griffin is representing Mr. Suddenfeld.
Great, thank you, and good evening. So if we could bring up the revised plan first, please. You know, a few weeks ago we had a nice site walk, and thank you all for coming that day. I think it was a good opportunity to see the site. We looked at the garage area a little bit, but spent most of our time talking about the pier. And since that time, we've had a chance to revise the plan a little bit to incorporate your comments.
Sorry, 1 second.
And I'll go through the changes sort of quickly, but one of the comments had to do with the spacing of the deck boards. And although there's no real salt marsh in this particular portion of the river, we did increase the spacing of the deck boards from 1/4 inch to 3/4 inch, which is the required or the recommended spacing for light passage in salt marsh areas. We also considered the use of a through-flow decking product. And at the end of the day, we decided not to go with that. It might pass a little bit more light. I'm not sure about that, but it's a little bit more brittle and susceptible to damage. So we prefer to stick with the Trex type decking. It's not pressure treated, and I think it'll work very well in this particular application. There was a request that we consider increasing the spacing of the pile vents. So that's the spacing between each pair of piles here. Previously, we were at 15 feet spacing, and we've stretched it out to 20. We did look at some alternative materials that would allow us to go to 30 or 40 feet. It more than doubles the cost of the pier, so it's just unfortunately economically prohibitive. But by using a better quality lumber on our stringers, we can get to this 20-foot spacing, and so we actually lost 4 piles as a result of that. We ended up putting 2 of them back. You can see that that has a 10-foot spacing out there instead of the 20, and that's to better resist ice flows and materials floating up and down the river in the storms or in the winter. So it provides a little bit more resistance in that area, and we felt that that was important given the currents and given the location in that particular area. We also lost 2 piles out in the float area. You can see we now have an L-shaped float instead of a T-shaped float. And so we lost 2 piles out in that area. So we do have an overall reduction of 4 piles, so that's a little less bottom disturbance. Now we increased the length of the fixed pier about 9 feet, but we reduced the overall length of the pier and floats by 13 feet. So the overall length is 13 feet shorter than it was before. It's 32 feet off of the extension of the property line. I think we were around 25 with our T-shaped pier before. So this is a distance that would pass waterways review. It's pretty typical to be at least 25 feet in situations like this. We also added some cross bracing to the pile pair. It's not so much, it's shown on one of the lower details, but it's sort of a carpentry issue more than anything else. And we also added seasonal water and seasonal electricity to the float. Mr. Sudenfeld would like that so that he will have water out at the float area in the summertime when his boat's there, and the electricity as well. Now, I think it's a pretty nice design here, but I do want to point out that we have some comments from DMF. DMF asked to make sure that the barge not ground out during the installation of the piles, and that the floats be stored in an upland location in the wintertime, and Mr. Sudenfeld certainly finds that acceptable. They actually said they like the fact that we had at least a 30-inch separation between the floats and the mud line, because they don't want the floats landing on the mud. They don't like the boats landing on the mud, you know, with each tidal cycle. And Mr. Sudenfeld, you may recall, wants open water access for his sailboat and his power boat. He grew up boating on the river and wants to keep on boating. So I think it's a good location from that point of view. We do have some comments from the harbor master, though, and we've tried to meet with the harbor master again. We met with him in early December, but he said he didn't really want to meet again unless specifically asked by the Conservation Commission. So I think he's respecting the process. I don't think he I think that's why he didn't want to meet. Now, in his letter to you, he explained that there's some Corps of Engineer guidance that addresses, in a linear waterway, the length of the piers and the floats as compared to the width of the riverway. He left off the next sentence from that guidance document, which says that you measure the width of the waterway at low water, and then in a linear waterway such as this, you should be no more than 25% on each side, leaving 50% in the middle for the public public use. In this particular case, and I'll ask you to bring up the aerial graphic if you can, please. We have a waterway width of 510 feet at low water, and we're about 100 feet into it. So we're 19.6%. So we are conforming to that 1996 Corps of Engineer guidance. And I happen to have a high tide picture here, but this is a low tide picture. Let's see if we can.
Sorry, I know, I got it, it's slow.
We're getting there. There's the loop and pivots. There's Mr. Sudenfield's property. And so here he is coming out the 216 feet from the seawall to the end of the float. And there's the width. You can see the low water line very clearly here and over here. So at its narrowest point in this area, it's 510 feet. So 216 is the overall length. It's 100 feet from low water to the end of the proposed pier, which is the 19.6% number. I think you can also see the mooring balls in this picture. Here's the mooring balls. And this first mooring, by the way, is Mr. Sudenfield's. Those two are used for him to tie up his boat. And you can see where the navigational line is. It's between the mooring balls. And so this pier is going to have no impact on the navigational channel. If you look at the picture in front of me, which is a couple of years after this aerial photograph was taken, you can see how Mr. Sudenfield's pier compares with the piers on Tibbetts Avenue. And it's really pretty comparable. It's about 55 feet further than the average. Mr. Sanborn, the harbor master, points that out. But I think I would point out that we're only the distance necessary to get the deep water, to get the open water that we need. We're not a foot longer than necessary, and we, again, have no impact on navigation. We have no impact on mooring balls. We're 85 feet to the closest mooring ball, and that's Mr. Sudenfield's mooring ball anyways. So we have no impacts to moorings. We have no impacts to swimming, sailing areas, and the like. Mr. Sanborn's letter also asked us to address the size of the floats. We did go, again, from a T-shaped setup to a smaller L-shaped setup. We're 210 square feet. I think he was looking for 200. We have a 6x15 and a 6x20. I think we're pretty comparable to what he was looking for there. He also asked that we seriously consider a shared pier, and Mr. Sudenfeld did this. He went to his neighbors, but as you can see from the photograph, the neighbors already have piers. They don't need Mr. Sudenfield coming along and occupying his property, and requirements would be violated by getting into a shared pier situation, and you would be jeopardizing his ability to continue to have homeowners insurance by doing that. So there are some significant problems with the shared pier. I think this, again, is a very good design. It doesn't impact significantly any use of the waterways, any traditional uses of the navigation or anything like that. We're certainly happy to meet further with you or with the harbor master or with anybody, but I think we've done a pretty good job of responding to all the comments and trying to address them consistent with the Wetland Protection Act and the Danvers regulations. And I'd be happy to address any questions.
Does this project require a Chapter 91?
It certainly does, yes, and that'll be the next step. We can't file that until the Concom process is complete.
Okay, just a couple quick questions. I'll give other people a chance after this. We appreciate you getting the square footage of the floats down, but why couldn't you get down to 200 square feet? You're close.
You want the other 10 feet?
What's that?
You want the other 10 square feet? All right.
And then I'll hold my other questions until other members have time to ask questions. So, Mike, you want to?
Yeah, well, my concerns are that if the harbor master has concerns, then I do. And he says the pier is too long. They cite the average length of 144 square feet, and this is 229, so that's, what, another 75 or so feet longer than the average length, and we just seems to be setting a trend to make these piers longer and longer and make the use by the public less available. Also, he had concerns regarding the design. I mean, I know you met on December 5th, but here we are, January 25th, and you should have had another meeting, and actually the recommendation that you should be meeting with the harbor master, because you haven't addressed what he says here.
So perhaps I wasn't clear, but we have tried to meet with the harbor master. We have sent him the emails, we have made the request, and he has specifically come back to me and says, I don't want to meet with you. I want to let the Conservation Commission process continue. I'm happy to meet with you if so directed by the Conservation Commission. So that's beyond my control. And if you want me to meet with the harbor master, please say so, and we'll be happy to do it.
That's reasonable.
Yeah. And evaluate alternative designs. That's another recommendation.
I think we have, obviously we have revised our plans, we have tried to incorporate them as much as we can, and I'm happy to sit down with anybody and talk about this design.
Well, to me, it's like, well, piers were okay at one time. Everybody wants to be in what some people call permanent water. Mm-hmm. And it just takes using up more and more of the river area and making it less available to the general public.
But I think that,
to satisfy one person because he has two boats, or he used to used to sail here for a long time. But you have to look at the overall good.
And I think, given the layout of Tibbetts, where the existing piers are, this has no significant impact on use of the water body. The pier is elevated up so that you can canoe underneath this or kayak underneath it. You can do paddle boards. We've got plenty of room.
Then why does the harbor master have concerns?
I'd like to know, and as I said, I'd love to meet with him.
I can't believe you can't make. We just met with him on the dog park.
I'll send you the email. He specifically says, I don't want to meet with you unless directed by the Conservation Commission.
Oh, well, that's up to our chairman.
Mr. Sudenfeld, do you have something to?
Yes. I've tried contacting the harbor master 3 times. I sent him an email and asked him to contact me, if we could, sit down, set up a date. Never heard. I called him twice, left voicemail messages for him, and he never got back to me. So, we've tried, and
Right.
so we're trying to do our best, and,
Well,
and
You're saying he doesn't want to meet with you unless we suggest it, so,
think
for
we're gonna
one, I'm
suggest it.
suggesting it.
Yeah, and, as far as, I understand your concern about, the docks going further and further out, but, what I'm trying to do and what Bob figured out is I wanted to have like at least 4 feet of water at low tide, for my sailboat and my other boat too. And I think you mentioned once about, the low tide, how come you can't sort of, know when the low tide's going to be, so you're not stuck, not going in. But there are times that I take the boat, I'll go past the bridges, go out for the day, and, I know what time low tide is, but sometimes the weather might turn. Like they might say thunder showers, thunderstorms late, early evening, but they start late in the day. And there are times I've had to come back quick, so if I come back to try to avoid the, the thunder, I'll come back and I won't be able to get to my dock. That's happened to, a couple times I had to come back, unexpected, so that's, another reason why, I'd like to have, some water there, and Bob calculated, and that's the minimum to get, 4 feet of water there, so,
Well, I expressed my concerns. I don't want to take up all the time.
yeah, okay.
Okay, yeah, we'll keep going. Ann, any questions?
One of the things we were talking about when we were there is the flow through the middle of the channel. And this dock seems to be moving very close to that central portion. How far off are you from the central portion of the?
So if you extend the line of the mooring balls up, and then you compare it to where the float is located, it's 50 feet back. So I think there's plenty of room, and we're not impeding at all in ordinary navigation of the channel.
That was my only concern when we were looking
Yeah.
at the space there. Okay. Vanessa?
Vanessa, any questions?
I have a couple. So the design you have now, when you're at the floats, you're in 4 feet of permanent water. And I did read that DMF comment letter that they were happy to see you were in more than 30 inches. So what would the length, do you happen to know what the length of the pier would need to be in 30 inches of water?
So at 30 inches, though, now we started getting into danger of the boat bottoming out. So while the float has 30 inches of separation, the boat's going to sit below the elevation of the float. So that's how we arrived at this particular location.
Okay.
So if we wanted to lose another foot, if you wanted to go from 48 to 36 inches, it'd probably be about another 10-foot reduction in the overall length of this.
Oh, okay, only 10 feet. Okay, so that's not very significant. I agree with what Mike said, that I would feel more comfortable moving forward if we knew the harbor master was also comfortable. So I heard what you said about your efforts to contact him, so hopefully we can get that taken care of
Fair enough.
on our end. That's all I have.
So if we can summarize, you seem to think that you can make the floats down to 200 square feet.
Right, so right now I have a 6 by 15 and a 6 by 20, that adds up to 210 square feet. If I take off 10 square feet, I think I'm taking off 18 inches, so I'll have a 13 and a half footer and a 15 and a 20 footer.
And you could have revised your plans.
I can do that, yeah.
And then, we'll just, somehow or other, we have to get a communication to the harbor master that, we're good with the piles and the float square footage. It's we're uncomfortable with the length of the pier. Now, we had another instance up on Chevalier last year where we approved it based on getting the concession that it would only be 200 square feet of floats, but we said, you're going to have to go through Chapter 91, and the harbor master has to comment on that. So you're still going to have to do that if we approve things.
No question about it.
So that being said, and when I look at this drawing of this pier, I mean, it's out a good, it's hard to tell by the scale, but you're out significantly farther than any of the others on Tibbetts. And my question is, do you need all of that distance? I mean, what's the draw on this boat that you need that distance?
So I guess if we go back to the engineering plan, we can see the bottom.
Could you use the mic, please?
Yeah. So if we go back to the.
Excuse me. Comments come through the chair, please.
Through the chair. Would you ask them to use the mic, please? Thank you.
Mr. Griffin, could you just speak with the microphone, please?
I want to point out that the -11 contour runs underneath the float here, and I'll repeat this with the microphone in a second. So here's -10, -9, and so on. So each of those are 1 foot apart. So the contour lines on the plan are 1 feet vertically apart, they're about 10 feet horizontally apart, and so that's why I said before, if we wanted to take 1 foot of water out of this system, we would shorten the system up by approximately 10 feet the length. Does that address the question?
Yes.
Okay.
Shorten the system means make the pier 10 feet shorter.
Well, either the pier or the float, or, the combination.
Get closer 10 feet
So
to
it
the shore.
would extend 10 foot, instead of being 85 feet longer than the average, it would be 75 feet longer.
Okay, so first of all, there's a mistake in that calculation. So the average of the existing piers that were referred to by the harbor master is, I think, around 170 feet. We're 215, so that's 30 plus 30,
45.
45. So it's about 50 feet longer than the average. But there's several on Tibbetts that I think, there's 2 that are 170 feet, and then there's one, well, anyway, I forget what the numbers are exactly, but I think we're closer to 55 feet shorter than the average is what I
I was
calculated.
looking at a chart, it says 144, but you think
I
that's
checked the
wrong?
numbers earlier this evening, and I know that we're 55 feet at the most longer than the average.
Okay, 'cause, yeah, this is 29.
We're 219
All right, so
total.
I'm going to speak for the harbor master, and I think you had mentioned, you're not impacting adversely on the navigable waters,
We're not impacting
but
negatively.
his point is that you're impacting, these long piers impact on the usability of that water, which is the public's
Yeah.
water. If someone wants to go take a sailboat out there, they've got to go through this narrow channel of 50 feet or whatever it is, and that's his whole negative feeling.
So
So
it's
he wants to have those piers shorter.
and it's quite a bit longer than 50 feet. And I can show that to the harbor master, I can show it to you on the aerial, but, we had a 500-foot width at low water. Now, granted, that's not, 4 feet deep in all of that section, but 50% of that would be, going by the Corps guidance, would be 250 feet of open channel, right? And I'm just telling you, we're at 19.6%, we're not at 25% in. So there's even further than that available. Now, the distance between the mooring balls are not 250 feet. This side to this side. But that's a lot more than 50 feet. I think you can just sort of visually see that.
All right, here's what I think we're going to do. We're
Can I
going to...
just say one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, because visually what I see is, going with your number with the average, then you think you have 50 feet beyond the average.
55 feet, right.
That's the length of this building beyond, in other words, it's that, to visualize, it's that much longer than the average.
The building's a lot longer than 55, right?
Looking
talking about
at
the
these
room?
1-foot squares, I started counting up.
Oh,
so
I'm
don't know.
missing, I thought you said the
Pretty close.
building. You mean the room?
I mean the room.
I see,
The length of the
okay.
room.
All right, well, let me try to meet with the harbor master. I'll go through the numbers a little bit more carefully, and if I need to pace out 55 feet at the next meeting, I'll do that.
Okay.
All right, so-
Thank you, Bob.
Just to summarize them, I think Aaron, try to push the harbor master
Yeah,
to meet with these
We can make that
folks?
happen. We will make that happen.
And, I think generally we are comfortable, and I'm speaking for the group, I hope, with your square footage of the floats are 200 feet or less. And then you just have to get, with the harbor master and make some sort of agreement on the length of the pier.
Okay.
If that can be done, then we'll go.
We're certainly willing to try. Thank you very much.
Okay, so Aaron is going to work to get the harbor master and you guys in contact. And then I guess we'll just need to continue to our next meeting. We think we can have that meeting done in 2 weeks, and you could have your plans revised in 2 weeks?
I hope so, yeah.
Okay, for what we want to see, we want to at least see the floats.
That's
down
an
to
easy, that's an
200.
easy one, thank you.
Okay, so if someone, is there any public comment before we move on? Nope. All right, if someone can make a motion, we'll continue to our next meeting, which is what, February?
8th, I think. I'm just looking up the calendar.
Should be the 8th.
Yeah.
I make a motion that we continue this public hearing. What's the DEP file number on this?
14-14.
Yeah, for 21 Tibbetts Ave, DEP file number 14-1409, to our next scheduled hearing, which is February 8th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank
so
you all very
see then. Next up is a notice of intent for 12 Bowden Street, DEP file number 14-14. And I know there was a communication somewhere, and I don't have it in front of me, but we do have a DEP number. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do?
I think it says it on the memo,
Yeah.
on 412.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Okay, so the
On the
DEP number
memo.
is 14-1412. And the applicant is Paul and Amanda Bartlett, and I see Bill Manuel is here to represent the Bartletts.
That's right.
So, Bill, go ahead.
Bill Manuel, Wetlands and Land Management, right here in Danvers. Amanda Bartlett is sitting over there in the audience next to Stephanie and Ronnie. This is an application for an EFLA, Extended Family Living Area, or otherwise known as an in-law unit, and over at 12 Bowden Street. This is another one of these projects where in that part of Danvers where all the streams and rivers have been relocated historically to the rear property lines, and it captures all of these properties as being in riverfront or a buffer zone to a brook or whatever. And this happens to be in the riverfront of Fowler Brook. So this is the property, this is the existing home here, number 12. It has nicely developed, it has a nice deck and a above-ground pool, a fire pit. There's a vinyl stockade-style fence that runs along the back property line here, and the brook is just off the top of the picture there. I flagged the wetlands directly along the brook. It's a combination of, you know, most of these areas, they've been historically dredged or straightened, so in most areas, the flags are right along the top of the embankment, and in some areas, there's a little flattened out fringe of BVW. But anyway, here's the 35-foot no disturb line, which happens to be all grass. Here's the 50-foot no build line. Here's our addition, and I am thankful to say that we don't need any waivers for incursion into the no build or no disturb zone. Really only the tricky part of this project is it happens to be in the riverfront area, and as of middle of last year or sometime, the DEP, after 27 years of dealing with riverfront area projects, has decided they're going to look at them differently. And I don't know if folks have brought anything to you, but basically they're saying now, if any part of the lot has been previously developed, then that counts as a previously developed riverfront area. Prior to the middle of last year, we'd say, hey, you know, I'm putting an addition on, it extends out over into the grass, the nice lawn area, so I get 10% of the riverfront area on the lot, or 5,000 square feet, whichever is greater. We're all set, and I'm probably out of here in 5 minutes. Now, they say you can't do that anymore. You have to look at it under a different section of the regulations, 1058-5, the redevelopment regulations. And that says basically that you get to, if the existing degraded areas, that being driveway and structure, exceed 10% of the riverfront area on the lot, then you have to mitigate for all your increase of structure. So I've set up the plan so that it walks you through very nicely. Aaron, can you slide that plan over so I can see this table? So basically, we have to document how much degraded area is on the property. And so I have the existing house, the existing walks in the driveway, and it already exceeds 10%. There is 19,886 square feet of riverfront on the lot. 10% of that's 1,988. Here's our existing improvements. So we already exceed 10%. So I know that I need to provide a 2-to-1 ratio of mitigation for each square foot that I add to the site. So what we've done here is the addition and expansion of the driveway and the walks totals 1,940 square feet. I need to provide 3,880 square feet at 2-to-1 or an equivalent level of environmental protection. That's a very important part of the regulations there, because they recognize that in some things that you can do to provide your 2-to-1 don't necessarily relate to a square footage on the ground. And for instance, on this property, all of this area, which extends behind the stockade fence, is wooded, but there's a whole community of escaped wisteria vine. I don't know where it came from, but at first I thought it was bittersweet, but looking at the leaves, it obviously wasn't Asiatic bittersweet, it's wisteria. And it has the same characteristics as bittersweet. It wraps itself around all the trees and strangles the trees. So we have a program here where we're going to educate Ronnie and Stephanie and Amanda about controlling Asiatic bittersweet. We're going to go through and eradicate that, cut it off and get rid of it, and they're going to have either whatever it takes, monthly or bi-monthly walk back there, and continue to pull the seedlings and bag it and remove it from the property. So we've taken credit for invasive species removal. And then along the inboard side of the fence, we have a nice area where we are proposing either a combination of shrubs or pollinator species, so that we give our nice pollinators, or bees and insects, another food source perhaps. And we have that information documented here on this second table. Aaron, if you could just slide a pan up a little bit. It documents how we arrive at 3,928 square feet of mitigation or mitigation value. So I do meet that mitigation criteria. Now, there are 5 other standards at 1058.5 that I have to abide by, and one of them is I need to make the redevelopment project has to be an improvement to the existing property. And I would say by removing the wisteria and adding the additional mitigation shrubs, plus we can go back to the pan over and see the house again. We're adding a nice roof water drip edge along the 2 edges of the property, or the roof line, and so we're providing stormwater management. We're infiltrating the roof water runoff. So those 3 features are a tremendous improvement to the condition of the property. Secondly, we have to manage stormwater in accordance with the requirements of DEP. Well, this is a single-family home, so there are no requirements for DEP stormwater requirements, but we're doing it anyway with the drip edge here, so we meet and exceed that standard. We have to be no closer to the river than the existing degraded area. They call structures degraded areas now. If we do, we have to provide mitigation, but you can see that we are no closer to the river, to the brook, than the existing structure, so we meet that standard. Fourth, we have to do our improvements toward the riverfront area boundary. We obviously have done that. We've connected this EFLA and put it as close to the front yard setback as we possibly can. And then the 5th part of the regulations is we have to provide the mitigation that I just walked you through. So we comply with everything with these riverfront redevelopment standards. As you know, we do have our DEP number, and the DEP had no comments. I had a fairly thorough explanation and written narrative walking both the commission and the DEP through this redevelopment stuff. They've been a little picky of recent, and I just wanted to make sure there were no ambiguities in how this is compliant with the regulations. So we hope the commission sees fit to issue an order of conditions.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Mike, any questions?
Yeah, Bill, with the mitigation, I think you said it was around 3,800 and some square feet
Yep.
of required mitigation. You talked about getting credit for getting rid of the invasive species. What is the actual mitigation on the ground that you're doing? I mean, in terms of the actual square footage you're doing?
So this area here, that's all going to be shrubs or pollinator garden. That is 1,380 square feet. And then there is an area of about 1,250 square feet, which we've taken 1,274, I think that says, which we've taken credit, 2-to-1 credit for, because we not only remove the invasive species on the property, but it serves a higher value because we're also removing a source of export directly along the brook. This could flower, drop seeds, it gets carried down.
This is on the property?
And this is
not
on the
beyond?
property. The property line goes to,
Show me that.
to the brook.
Yeah.
So this lighter green area here is the wisteria area.
Okay, where do you get and I know about wisteria and the other vine that people used to cut to have the berries for
Right.
the holidays or whatever. They like the look, but it wraps around trees, and if you don't cut that root, it'll die on the stuff you cut. It won't grow anymore there, but you got to keep pulling it up.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, but wouldn't they have known that already? I mean,
Who's they?
whoever lived there. I mean,
It may be there.
when you see it wrapping, you see
Yep.
it wrapping around, and you say, oh yeah, look at that wisteria, it's gonna choke off the tree. So how do you arrive at the value credit? I guess that's what I'm asking. How do you arrive at that number to satisfy the 3,800? I
Yep.
mean, is there a chart you look at, or do you call DEP and ask them?
I rely on that particular section of the regulations that says, provide an equivalent level of environmental protection where square footage is not a relevant measure.
Yeah,
So-
I know. So is there some chart that shows you the value and say, this is worth 1,000 square feet if I do this?
No, isn't that the fun part about all these regulations?
Yeah,
This
I'm
is what
just
we're
wondering how you
doing.
did it.
We've been doing it one way for 27 years, and all of a sudden, they decided we're going to look at it a different way. And so, all I can say is, I have my DEP file number with no comments.
Okay, all right.
But that's the way performance standards are anyway. What's a performance standard? How do you know are you meeting the performance standard? It's up to the commission to decide if that's if I've met the redevelopment standards.
Yeah, I'm trying to just, because like you said, it's new thinking about that. What would be some other things that would give value other than, for example, not necessarily on this property, but can you cite some other things?
Yeah, stormwater management on a single-family house lot that doesn't require it.
Doesn't require
Under DEP regs. If you were to provide stormwater management, the circuit rider has told me that is something to look very favorably on.
Even though under the regs it's not needed,
That's correct?
but you'd get credit for that.
Yes.
Anything else?
It's not to say, just because it's not needed in the regulations doesn't mean it's not of value
Yeah.
when you put it on the property. But
And what's the value to it in this case?
the value is what you believe it is. In this case, I didn't even take credit for the stormwater management because I had sufficient value plus square footage in the mitigation I'm already providing.
And how many trees are involved with the wisteria?
Well, this is all pretty brushy back here, and I mean, there's probably a dozen, pole-size trees and stuff that
Oh,
are.
like 6,
Yeah, some are larger and some are smaller,
yeah.
but they're all pretty well invaded by that wisteria vine.
What will they be replaced by, Bill?
Nothing. We're just going to eradicate it and allow the natural vegetation to fill in.
Is it just wisteria, or is there other vines as well?
Wisteria is pretty much the dominant there. As I said, when you see something twirling around a tree, you think bittersweet.
Yeah.
Then, fortunately, I did this in the summer, it was leafed out, and I was obviously wisteria leaves, and and bittersweet leaves are nothing like each other, so I didn't really see any bittersweet in there. It may be
The
there.
stuff that grows back there is the, that Japanese
The knotweed.
No.
knotweed. Is that back there?
I did not see any back there.
Because I know, at least Vanessa would be interested.
Yep,
They should be happy they don't have it.
Yeah. It's not back there?
I did not see it back there.
That means it's not there, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, August when I was there, so I would have seen it, would have been this
Yeah.
high.
Right. All right, thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Yeah.
And actually, I would say, originally, I was saying we didn't have enough information here to vote on this, but I think you did a pretty good presentation.
Thank you.
And gave me some information.
Yeah, it's all a learning process now, commission by commission, because they're all going like, what is all this, what did you give me? And it's, basically, the DEP dropped it on us without any warning, other than you look for your file number and they say, this can't be approved.
Well, how big is the EFLA?
It's, what is it, 950,
It looks like 990.
830 square feet. It's going before the Board of Appeals shortly.
Over,
I see
more or less?
30 by 33.
Yep, have you reduced something there? Or
Maybe that's 1,000.
Yeah, 999.
That's the footprint we're working on, and maybe that includes the storage area, the interior storage?
Yes, there's shared space in the middle.
Yeah.
That's we're putting onto our addition. There's a 10 by 10 square addition. The shared space that we're having off of our roof is going to be a 10 by 10 addition that is going.
Well, that's not our jurisdiction, but I was curious about the,
But, you know, if
830 square feet livable space on the EFLA.
okay, let's to take up with the ZBA, but, I
Yeah.
mean, that would gain you something on the mitigation side, if that addition was small.
Well, the footprint is still that 30 by 33.
Okay, we're not going to dwell on it too much. but
yeah,
it just,
no, that was it.
I would think, would just help you, but that's between you and the ZBA. Ann, do you have any questions?
What kind of bushes are you putting in? Are there no bushes there now? Is that what you're saying?
It's all grass right up to the fence, right on top of the plan, Aaron, I won't ask you to move the plan anymore, but right on the very top of the plan, I have a whole list of suggested pollinator species, native upland shrubs. I give you a specification of size and spacing throughout the area.
That's what you're
And
going to
there it
replace the wisteria with in the,
Yeah.
And then on the other side of the plan, there's a protocol for the wisteria management.
I say listeria.
Yeah.
There's a bacteria.
Very good, thank you.
Vanessa?
Is there going to be a schedule on how they're going to address this?
Yeah, they're going to get a cup of coffee on Saturday morning and
I
and
knew
go
you'd-
out and
That's it?
do that, because at the end of 2 years, they're going to want to show the commission how successful it was.
I mean, I did.
We'll take volunteers to come help us take.
Are there photos now to say what they're working with?
I don't have any particular photos. Maybe there's a condition.
Vanessa?
Thank you, Peter. I noticed on the plan where it listed out the, potential species to be planted, there was a note about seizing mowing in a certain area. So is that in just the green area that you have highlighted
This
there?
lighter green, yes.
Yeah. So, wondering if the commission would like to consider some no disturb markers, maybe along the line of that area that's not going to be mowed anymore. Just to kind of keep those, it depends on what you put in. Obviously, nobody's going to mow a shrub, but then if you put in other pollinator plants that aren't as woody, and it's a future homeowner situation, et cetera, et cetera. So possible idea to put in markers there. And then, is there a gate in that fence?
There is.
And is it kind of behind that shed?
It's just about right there, yes.
Okay. I feel like you wouldn't obviously want to plant in front of the gate, but I was thinking, wouldn't it be nice if you could go across the whole yard if that shed wasn't there? But I don't know if there's any chance of pulling that out of the 35, or if that's, I don't know what type of shed it is or what it's on or anything, if that's just a totally big ordeal to pull it out of the 35.
That would be a big ordeal. And it's crushed stone behind it. There is some storage. It's being used for some storage, some, excess stuff. There's just some stuff back there. And with these lots, there's no basements in these houses. There's just nowhere to store stuff.
Yep.
That probably would have been another thing that would have added value, right? Removing the shed out of there? Not saying you should or would.
Yeah, just,
That would be another item,
we've already got enough.
yeah.
And I don't think moving it would do anything. It would have to be removing it,
Remove.
right? Like for
Well,
credit.
it's in it encroaches, right?
Well, it's there, it's been there a long time. Yep, so.
Yeah.
Prefer not to disturb it. And frankly, these new regulations, the DEP is trying to tell me that they're better for the homeowner, adding more flexibility, and to me, it's a hardship, because, this is not an inexpensive proposition here to add it, 1,300 square feet of shrubs and make sure it stays alive for 2 years, and they lose that much of their backyard. So, we're all coming to grips with it, but
But that's not part of their backyard, right? Isn't the red line the fence?
that's the fence, this is the wisteria on the top side of
Yeah,
it,
but
and
I
this
mean,
is the
they're not
shrubs
using that
on the
as
low
yard.
side of it.
They're not using that as a yard.
They are.
On-
Yeah, there's grass right up to the fence.
No, on the other side of the fence.
Be on the other side,
Correct, they are not using that.
Bill.
Okay. A question for, I guess, Aaron. This project pretty much meets the requirements we have. Outside of the size of the addition. But it's more like he's working to satisfy the DEP new regulations. Are they counting on us to enforce that, or do they come along and they have to bless this project, or what happens?
No, it's if we feel this meets the performance standards, then the commission can approve. Again, we may learn in 6 months, 6 years, that there'll be clarifying guidance, and when we said, we wouldn't have been able to approve that had we known then what we know now, but at this point, it's,
Okay, so it's up to us.
But if they have a file number, DEP has looked at it in some
Yeah.
And
capacity.
Yeah.
pretty much said it's okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Hard to know how detailed of a look, but it got a look.
Well, we have
Maybe Georgia
we have
looked
it
at
in
it.
there now, so we're gonna. Okay, is there any public comment or questions? Okay, what's the board's feeling on this?
Well, I make a motion that we issue an order of conditions,
Hang on, we got to close the public hearing.
yeah. oh,
Hold
yeah.
on, I just wanted to get
Yeah.
Theo, Mike, I wasn't necessarily
Yeah.
asking for.
You want?
Is everyone comfortable with this project?
Yes,
I am.
Yeah.
I am.
Okay, so now we can close the public hearing, so.
I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Mike, you're on a roll.
Whereas since the applicant has demonstrated that they meet the mitigation requirements under the new DEP regulations and satisfies this board, I move that we issue an order of conditions for 12 Bowden Street, DEP file number 14-1412, and with just additional conditions that markers be installed, was suggested by one of our board members. How far apart do we put those?
I can't help you with that one.
Is it 20 feet or 25 feet or something like that?
At the risk of not having the backyard look like a fortress, maybe one here and one here,
Show me where that was.
at the
Yeah,
two
at the
corners.
beginning, yeah.
All right.
Maybe one there and one there. It's only, what is it, like, it's not very far across the width of the yard.
What's the width?
The
750.
What
front-
is that border right there where you just pointed to, Bill?
This is the border of the shrubs.
Right, right.
All right, we'll put two markers. How many feet apart are we talking on those two now, if you can estimate that?
Probably 80 feet, 85, 90 feet.
There's a number there, I can't read it, though.
No, it's about 100 feet.
We put like one in the middle, like one on each end and one in the middle. That's 3 total, that's not that many. I feel like that if you just have like the 2 on the edges,
Well, they're not.
You, like,
if
had
they're
no
gonna be
idea
on
why
the
they were
edge,
there,
But if he
it'd be-
moves them in from the edge, 20 feet from each edge, and then put 2?
Yeah, 2 or 3 is reasonable, 20 feet apart, it
Yeah,
starts,
all right.
okay.
Okay, so we do that. Also, that we'd like to see some evidence of what you've told us is there, so that we can look at a before and after.
yep, some
So
before and after
staff would,
photos.
Staff would be able to go out at a later date and see if you've met your objective. All right, anything else? That's a motion.
Second.
That's it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good enough.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Just a reminder, it's a 3-year time limit on these. We'd like to see projects finished and back here for a certificate of compliance in 3 years. And
They should be back quicker than that.
Hopefully.
When are you gonna start construction? So,
Shovels in the ground.
he was saying
you still need ZBA approval. So,
Yeah.
we're just saying, we're going to issue this within, the appeal period, so within 2 weeks. So from 2 weeks, from the point 2 weeks in the future, you have 3 years from that date to get back to us with the certificate of compliance. So more or less to have the project done. Okay,
It's better to come back early rather than late.
okay, good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Okay, next up is a notice of intent for 191 Old Burley Street, DEP file number 14-1411. The applicant is
Yeah,
Flight
no,
Level.
Good job.
Better than
You
nothing.
know, Flight Level Aviation.
Good night.
And you're,
Take care.
Can we share the screen?
Your tech guy should have, there it is.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Peter Ogren, and I'm with Hayes Engineering, and I'm here representing Flight Level Aviation for a notice of intent for a new hangar under DEP file number 014-1411. And with me this evening is Joe Grillo, who's an engineer with my office, who's kind of running the slide presentation, and Peter Eichley from Flight Level Aviation, I believe, is on remotely. Thank you. And also Bob Lawrence, who's a consultant for Flight Level Aviation, sitting here in the front row, and Steve Conley from Conley Brothers. Basically, we have a application for a new hangar at Beverly Airport. The red dot that you see, a red square that you see here, is the location of it. It sits behind the existing Flight Level Aviation, which, for those of you who might be familiar with the airfield, it was the old North Atlantic operation, and it's just southeast of the taxiway Bravo. It's a small lease area that's leased by Flight Level. The project description, this is a buffer zone project under both your regulations and also the DEP, and it consists of the construction of possibly 2 proposed hangars to be done in 2 phases. The first phase 1 would be 135 by 150, about 20,000 square feet on the left-hand side of the screen, and then phase 2, similar in size, although slightly smaller, for about another 20,000 square feet. The yellow lines that you see on the screen are the regulatory zones. The 0 to 35 is the first yellow dashed line from the wetland line, and the 0 to 50 is the second one. Then the 100-foot regulatory buffer zone is the last line that you see. We're proposing to build these 2 hangars and also the associated utilities, which Joe will point out to you now. We're going to run water, electric, cable TV, sewer, and gas to this hangar site from their existing locations, which some of their locations are within the 100-foot buffer zone, but none within the 0 to 50-foot buffer zone.
That's all underground?
I believe that'll all be underground. Yeah, there's some current overhead now, but we don't intend to come off of that. We're going to go underground. There's an existing transformer. Joe, maybe you could point that out to me. There's an existing transformer near the Flight Level, down, electric. We're going to come from that electric transformer there and go underground with the electric. Then the water line comes in from the corner of the blue lines you see down in the corner there to the hangar location. And we believe that cable TV can come in the same route as the electric, and the gas is also shown, but they're all underground. Now, as I indicated before, it's a buffer zone project, and we can see in detail here the buffer zones, but we are asking to go into the buffer zones in accordance with your policy. And I did provide a calculation of the policy in accordance with your guidance that's on the website. The activities within the 0 to 35 foot are grading at the proposed ramp, the relocation of an 8-foot chain link fence, which is the security fence of the airport, the construction of a level spreader. The activities within the 0 to 50 consist of paving and grading at the proposed ramp, the relocation of the 8-foot chain link fence, the construction of a level spreader, which is stormwater management, and the emergency egress from the hangar, a stone trench for the construction, and a removal of an earth pile. There's actually a discarded earth pile there, which Joe will point out to you, that's got to be removed from the buffer zone. It's from some prior activity. I'm not familiar with exactly why it's there. Now, I said it was a buffer zone activity, but this also requires stormwater mitigation. It's not a single-family home, which is exempt, as you just heard. And so the stormwater management here is going to exist of two forms, mitigation and recharge, both of which are required. And they're kind of separate systems in this particular scenario. The flow mitigation is done by a detention basin, which is that big area P12 that's there, which is actually designed to detain the water runoff and mitigate it to the existing rates of runoff. And that's in the stormwater management report we filed with you. That is a treatment train which consists of a deep sump catch basin over in the corner of the ramp area there, a particle separator into the basin, an outfall, and then there's going to be a discharge line that actually goes under the hangars to a level spreader that finally discharges to the wetland area. That's consistent with the stormwater management regulations of the state. The recharge is going to be handled separately by infiltration trenches, and like was talked about the last time, under the eave of this hangar, there'll be a mitigation shown in red here, which is a 12-foot wide, 12.5-foot wide actually, mitigation trench, which captures the requisite volume for the ramp area and the area of the hangar that's shown under SC 1.3, but only the left-hand side. So it captures that water that Joe's pointing out to you now and infiltrates it in the 12.5-foot wide trench. In Phase 2, that will be constructed in Phase 1, and I didn't point out the entire stormwater detention area is designed to be handled in Phase 1 as well. In Phase 2, there'll be the stormwater trench is already going to be constructed in Phase 2, but it's only about I think 4 feet wide actually, because we only need to mitigate that part of the hangar that was not mitigated in the first thing. And as I indicated, the retention pond is going to be sized and constructed in Phase 1 for the entire project. I think that completes our presentation, and I think we've demonstrated that we meet the performance standards of both the Danvers non-zoning wetlands bylaw as well as the state regulations, and we would hope that this project qualifies for you to issue an order of conditions. And I assume you might have some questions for me.
Yeah, one quick question before I pass it on to other members. It looks like the corner of one of the hangars is right up to the 50-foot?
It's right at the 50-foot line, that's correct. But we're not proposing anything in the 50-foot, which requires a building permit, which is kind of a no-no in your regulations.
You know, the property, the land that these hangars will be built on is just, is it paved right now? Is it permeable or impermeable?
It's basically a glacial material. We submitted, and maybe you can go to that slide, Joe. We submitted a number of test holes that we dug out there. We asked for permission to do so when Georgia was still here. And it's basically a glacial till material. It's not highly permeable, but we're capturing the required water volume to infiltrate, so over time it will hopefully infiltrate. And a lot of it is fill material, there's no question.
I'm just concerned that, with this impervious square footage, that water's going to get into the wetlands, which theoretically could make the wetlands grow.
Well, and theoretically it does now if it's impervious, so we can't change the underlying condition.
So you're saying right now it is impervious?
No, it's not impervious. It's a glacial till, but it's quite tight. So it's not a sand or a gravel.
So
But it's not impervious.
It acts like
essentially
impervious, right, Peter?
It's pervious, yeah, but it's not a sand or a gravel, so it's not impervious, certainly.
So is it grass or is it pavement, the area?
Excuse me?
Is it
Is it
grass
more
or
like
pavement, the
pavement?
area that you're?
Oh, now, it's not covered with an impervious surface, no. It's vegetated. I don't know if I'd call it grass, but it's vegetated. And it's maintained by the airport. Maybe we could go back to that airport slide, Joe?
Okay, well, we don't have to waste too much time on it. Just,
Well, no,
I was just
thought it was
concerned
a-
about how much water, but I think we want to get out there, so we
I
want
thought it
to
was a
see
good
it.
question you had, because if it's some kind of hard pack and it doesn't absorb water, then it's impervious, right?
Well, yeah, but I mean, impervious is no flow at all. I mean, there are various levels of perviousness. This is, as I indicated, can you go back to the first photograph, and maybe we can see? The area is basically, I wouldn't call it grass, but it's maintained, it's mowed. And you can see that the hangar is in the mowed area right there.
Yeah, just.
And then the wetland is the darker area, so, but, I mean, even a grass surface with loam has some level of perviousness, and it's reflected in the hydraulic calcs that we submitted to you.
Okay. Mike, any other questions?
Yeah, so you're right up to the 50, so you'll have to be working from the other side of the 50 to construct that, correct?
Correct, but that would be in the area of the infiltration trenches anyway. The infiltration trenches is part of what we asked for, the location in the buffer zone. So, yeah, and I would expect, I mean, Steve Conley's here and could speak to this, but I think certainly all the construction can take place between those two areas. The area, the 12 and a half feet strip where we're going to put the infiltration and then the hangar wall.
Yeah, and another, if this was, say this was a gas station, something they concern with, will there be gasoline, solvents, oil? And if so, how is that contained within, if there were any, that it wouldn't get into the resource area?
Any of those materials are going to be inside the hangar itself, and under the state sanitary code, it's required to put a gas water separator, and we've shown that on the plan.
Okay.
There's a trench drain, for Phase 1, there's a trench drain inside the hangar which will collect anything that's on the hangar floor, and this is not a maintenance hangar, it's a storage hangar. But anything that's on the hangar floor will be collected, and it'll go to a oil water separator, which Joe's indicating with the arrow right there, and then that ultimately goes into the sewer. Now, in Phase 2, we construct a similar trench drain, and by the way, the inside hangar floor is sloped all toward the trench drain.
Right.
In Phase 2, we construct a similar one, and that goes back to a proposed sewer inside the building and through the same oil water separator.
And then it gets separated out, where does the oil go?
You have to pump out the oil off the top of the tank, and it's sized in accordance with the plumbing code. You have to pump the oil off the top of the tank and take the sediments out of the bottom.
Thank you. That's all my question.
Okay. Ann, any questions?
No. Go
No,
ahead.
you all set? Vanessa?
You mentioned that as part of the detention basin, there was going to be some particle separators. What's the schedule for having those maintained and cleaned out?
We submitted a standard, I think it was a Barracuda particle separator, and in it there are standards for measuring the depth. I think it's typically when there's about a third of the sediment chamber is filled up, you need to clean it out with a vac truck. and that will be monitored and have to be cleaned. And that can be easily accessed from the ramp itself. You can drive a truck right down the taxiway and go to the location of that other water separator and clean it out. And there's I don't know, do you remember, Joe, what the scheduled maintenance was in that?
I have the...
Excuse me, and who are you?
I'm Joe Grillo.
You have to,
I'm sorry, I introduced him earlier, but I guess I didn't tell you where he
yes,
was.
identify himself.
Hello, I'm Joe Grillo. I work for Hayes Engineering. So in our operation and maintenance report, we have the whole section about the particle separator that'll go over the company's specs on how to maintain and install and operate it. I can pull that up if you'd like.
No, that's okay. I think that it's there is good. And then I just wanted to know what size storm this is all sized for, like the 100-year storm, 10-year storm, 25-year?
What size storm what?
That the stormwater management is sized for,
Well, it's analyzed for the 100-year storm.
100-year, okay.
Yeah, that's in the, again, that's in the hydraulic package that was submitted with the application.
Okay.
That's the DEP standard.
Just a quick question, is there, are you waiting for any other permits besides ours?
I don't believe so.
And do you have a proposed timeline for getting this project going?
I'd maybe leave that for flight level to answer. Do you know what the timeline would be?
Good evening, I'm Bob Lawrence, representing Flight Level. The first question, do we have other pending permits? We filed with the FAA and the Mass DOT for airspace reviews, but we don't see a problem with that. In the conversations we've had to date, we don't see a problem with that because of its location and its height. The schedule, ideally, we'd like to have the shovel in the ground in the spring, but we understand there's variables that have to be addressed first.
Okay, thanks. And just, I did hear you mention that a chain link fence was going to be relocated?
Yes, the chain link fence needs to be relocated. It's
probably 3+ years ago now that we approved some sort of fence project at the airport. I'm not sure if that was,
That same
if
area.
if that's included or not, but that 3 years has also gone by. So that, technically, that order of conditions is,
This fence was put in probably 15 years ago, I would estimate. I know we did the work for the airport when it was done.
but are you familiar with the, there was a proposal to replace fencing, we walked around the whole
Right.
east-west runway.
Right, well, this is the same fence that was put in 15 years ago that they're probably looking to repair. Every once in a while, a deer either jumps over it or goes through it, I don't know which.
I know before Georgia left, she did communicate with the airport manager on the status of that permit, and again, because I kind of know a little bit more about the airport than the average Joe, I think, I don't believe the airport's trying to figure out how to utilize some of that permit before it expires, but there's not a lot of, I don't believe the airport will be doing much with that permit. It's likely to expire, but
Right.
Are they entitled to an extension on that?
I think they can get one, is it a 6-month?
year?
1
Or
year.
1 year?
Yeah.
But again, I think there's a
1 year.
larger, I mean, it's a significant cost to replace all of the fencing. There's significant issues with the fence at this point. There's a lot of,
Yeah.
but
But we approved that with an order of conditions.
Right, but there was no funding.
Probably
The hope is that there would be some state and federal funding available for the airport to
Yep.
construct that, and that we wanted it environmentally permitted in order to apply for those grants, and those grants have not come through. So I'm not quite sure the status, but I know Georgia, before she left, made sure that we reached out to the airport to give them a status update, just so that they knew where the clock was. But I know it is getting close.
Thank you.
Does the
I'd
board
like to
have any
point
other
out,
questions?
that just before we go on, that the study that Bob just mentioned is really not a permit. It's a review of approach planes to the airport that just is reviewed by the FAA. We've had that on a couple of other projects here. It's
that's-
not really a permit. It's,
But it wasn't a big hurdle either, it sounds like, no.
And you call this a storage hangar? What did you call it?
It's for storing airplanes, right? It's a storage hangar, not a maintenance hangar.
Right.
Okay, I'm sure there's some public questions or comments, so if anyone has a question, now's your time. Sir?
Yeah, I do store
Sir, can you go to the podium and just let us know your name and address first, please?
Cosmas Agilikas, 91 Burley Street, Danvers, Mass.
Good evening. I'm Attorney Effie Paniotakis. I do represent Mr. Formerly Cosmas Agilikas, affectionately known as Gus, and his wife also is sitting over there. Her name is Jonna Agilikas, and they are abutters to the airport on the Danvers side at 91 Burley Street. But I will, Mr. Agilikas will address his
For the past
concerns.
24
Burley
years
Street, that's
that
the
I'm-
street that runs down
Yes.
parallel to the runway and up
Yes.
to...
My house abuts the fence at the last runway, and I've been getting flooded out for the past 24 years. I got oil and all kinds of stuff going through my yard. I've tried going to the town of Danvers. I tried contacting these people. I get nowhere. Now I'm in the middle of getting, I have a city drain located on my property, which was granted back in when? 1970.
1972. There is an exhibit.
Not in 24 years has anybody come back there to clean that drain, do anything. The ground eroded so bad that Burley Street floods out because of it. All the snow from that back runway goes to the back of that fence, which I have aerial shots and everything else of. And they want to keep building and putting stuff up, but where's the storm management? You got 191 or 201 Burley Street. Young girl just bought the house. That's the other runway. The whole house is full of ice. 3 inches of ice from all the water coming off these runways, running through the streets, running through everything. Poor girl, if she needs an ambulance, something to get to the house, they can't. I have an old man next door to me. He can't even get to his house because of all the ice.
Aaron, could you just scroll through the picture and these folks could just give us an idea where your property
This is actually a presentation, this is...
What's that?
They know where it is.
I don't know where it is, and I'm asking... the question.
Hayes Engineering is controlling right now, but,
I am trying to zoom in.
Yep.
Just give me 1 second for the
Yep.
computer.
There's a storm drain located right here. There's a storm drain on my property, which I had pinned, and the drain is on my property, and the runoff comes from the top 2 gates in that fence straight down, and then there's another runoff that comes down, and it floods right through my yard. I got
Does the
pictures of it
drain
all.
overflow?
Overflow.
Where does it go to? Where does it go to? Do you
There
know?
was-
It's
In the
supposed to
packet,
go in
we-
the drain, but because of all the years, now the ground is straight. So all that water's running right through my shed.
No, but I mean, is there a pipe attached and then it
Oh,
goes
yeah,
elsewhere?
I even paid to have it scanned, and it goes right out to the city street.
Surveyed.
Surveyed.
So he had a land surveyor come out, and if I can just elaborate a little bit, I did notify the town, the Department of Public Works last week. I spoke to Lee King about this drain, and I was able to identify it in a quitclaim deed that was granted to the town of Danvers back in 1972. There's also a revised plan, of which I also attached. I submitted a nice packet with some colored photographs depicting the flooding, and also it's icing over in the winter, and also there's substantial flooding of Burley Street, which are all depicted in the photographs. There are also videos taken by Mr. Agilikas after heavy flood storms showing the rear of his property, the issue with the drain, and the manner in which the water actually floods his property. And we encourage you to review those videos. We submitted them by email and also by jump drive. I delivered personally to the office.
Are these in the packet?
those were in the packet.
And so if I encourage you to look at those photographs, we have multiple exhibits, just showing, and in fact, showing you where the drain is and the location of the Agilikas property with relation to.
What's the size of the drain? Is it like a typical storm
Oh,
drain
It's
you
a
see in the
typical-
street?
Yes, it's a typical.
Have you heard from DPW this week? Have you gotten a response?
I was told by Ms. King that she was going to refer this issue
Yeah.
to the engineering department for further evaluation, because they may not even have it on their list.
I think that's part of the
And I
issue.
think that that is the issue.
We've-
But we're presenting, this is part and parcel of the issue. The major issue is the excessive water runoff, surface water runoff, which is really what's creating the problem in the first place, right? The drain issue is secondary to that. And even, I suggest, when you review the video, it's almost as if it's a stream or a river that flows directly behind the Angelicus property toward the drain, but doesn't make it into the drain. It's 52 years of being unserviced at this point. And there's no existing water mitigation system at this site by the airport to reduce this or to mitigate this damage. That's caused erosion to the conservation land that abuts and also to his property. And I have photographs showing this level of erosion over the course of time, but it's becoming overly burdensome. So there are 3 children that live at the home, 19, 17, and 11. It's a full, they use the yard all the time. The concern with this water runoff is that it does bring contaminants and pollutants onto the property. Oil, we've seen, and there's a video with his young child trying to clear away the drain after a rainstorm, and you can hear the child actually identify the oil going in the drain. And Mr. Angelicus has seen it multiple times. But it also drags the ticks down, and 2 of the children have Lyme's disease, and so he's struggled extensively to eradicate that issue. And that water doesn't drain. It sits for several days on the property, which creates multiple mosquitoes, which is a huge adverse impact to their day-to-day right to enjoy their property peacefully and without added adverse impacts that is essentially caused by the airport. Now,
Are you saying that if the drain was functioning, that there wouldn't be a problem?
we think that the water's excessive.
What's that?
If you look at the videos, you can
No,
literally.
but I'm saying if the drain was functioning, are you saying that that would solve the
We
problem?
propose that might help the problem, but we won't know exactly how, so I guess what I'm trying to say is, it needs, he knows better than I do. It is so excessive that you'll see that the water around the entire rear yard coming right up to their deck, it's got a level, it's a pond, the whole thing. You can't even walk out there.
We're talking 3, 4, 5 inches of water.
And that goes
running through
all the way around, and literally all of Burley Street
I got it in
floods.
my house, I can't keep turning in, I'm not gonna turn in an insurance claim, enough's enough.
And so this is becoming worse and worse over time. So between the extensive runoff from the airport, and like I said, there appears to be nothing in place right now to mitigate that. And with that comes pollutants on the property. We don't know at this point what, if anything, has occurred. Mr. Angelicus has attempted to address it.
Done now as we speak.
Yeah, so beyond that, we know that the takeoffs and liftoffs at the airport have doubled since 2014, and I present that statement to you because the commission chair of the airport, Mr. Paul Treffery, was quoted in the Salem Evening News last year saying that this is the case, that takeoffs and landings at this airport have doubled since 2014. With that comes noise, added traffic, pollutants in the air,
I'm gonna have to
vibrations and the
interrupt.
like. Yeah.
It says
In
really
addition
is
to
in our
that,
jurisdiction, and this
we'll stick to
area,
this, but this is the major issue and the major.
I understand that, and I've given you your time to,
Well, we can finish here. I
but it
apologize.
doesn't really relate to the project that we're reviewing at the moment.
I understand. Thank you. Well, that would
But,
be,
I mean, you have brought it up, and the engineering department, and if you feel strongly, come back and we'll keep pressing, but it's really not on our jurisdiction to handle that.
With respect to
And
that.
it's not related to this project either.
the water runoff, with the water
It's a
runoff?
stormwater management, it's not our
I mean,
jurisdiction.
the water's running off is up that east-west runway, right? Whatever the numbers are.
Explain this with a slide if you let us.
You go ahead, but just briefly, please.
Are you gonna tell them how to fix it, or are you going to just?
No, I haven't looked into it on how to fix it, but I do know that the original indication was that the flight level aviation leased the airport, and we do not lease the airport. We lease a small site of the airport, and we had an opportunity to review the attorney's letter as it relates to runoff, which could be a concern for your commission. And if you just give us a minute, we can put up a slide that shows the watersheds and the location of 91 Burley Street to the proposed project. it coming? It's a big file because we analyzed all the watersheds in the area there. But let me just summarize by saying that, here we go. There's the proposed activity, and the flow from our site, it is airport runoff, but it goes first in a westerly direction by the arrows there that you see, and then southerly, and then back southeasterly, coming down and enters into the Fishbrook, and discharge down there. From 91 Burley Street, which is the subject property she's talking about, the runoff comes off the airport and goes through their yard, and it's a subsurface drain, and it discharges there. So our proposal is not even in the same watershed. I think that she may need to take that up with either the Airport Commission or the town of Danvers, but it doesn't have anything to do with our project at all.
I agree.
And nothing you do with, nothing in your project is going to add or subtract to the issue.
No, not at all, and we have stormwater management for our project.
Yeah.
Do you want to add anything?
Well,
Well, we want to thank you all very much for just allowing us to be heard.
Okay,
And we do hope that perhaps, I don't know if anyone else at the airport, I mean, we will pursue this with respect to other municipalities and with the town, just with respect to the drain, but if anything,
it sounds like this has been going on for a long time.
it has, and we'd just like to address it with the airport and let them know that this is actually occurring. It may not be a part of your project, but generally speaking, this is an impact by the airport to the abutting neighbors in a large degree, and if you could consider that and in your future projects, or at least take consideration into the impact now, because this is an issue that we shall continue to pursue. So we thank you very much, and we hope everyone has a
Thank
good
you.
evening. Thank you very much.
Mr.
Okay,
Wilson?
is there anyone else?
Mr. Wilson? I just, on the drainage issue, with the easement on that property, we also discussed this. We haven't had a conversation with the engineering division, but we made sure we shared the packet that you provided, just because that to us is I know it's related, but an unrelated issue, in that if we have an easement on your property and we're not maintaining it, we need to look into that. So we're going to try to follow up on that as well, but no worries.
What's that? I think so. Any other? Ma'am?
My name is Sharon Gavoni. I live at 1650 Burley. We directly abut the airport. So as a simple woman and a simple layman, this to me doesn't mean a thing, okay? It doesn't mean anything to me. So I guess what I'd like to know is, simply, if I was pulling into that airport driveway at 191 Old Burley Street, okay? Where are those sheds being built from there? Or hangars, or whatever you are gonna call them, or do with them, which I still don't understand. I got this letter saying you should come to this meeting. What do we need these things for? What are they? I'm a simple woman. What are they?
Are you going to put the picture up, shows where they are?
Just tell me. I think I'd rather you just tell me. If I pull in the driveway,
Showed that, ma'am.
It was,
I understand that.
But she wants to see it relative to that.
When you come in, when you
To the
pull into
driveway.
the airport on what is it?
see, he's doing it with the cursor right there.
The black arrow now is going up the entrance to the airport from
Yep.
the Danvers side. That's the big parking lot that's in front of the entire operation.
Yep.
And the red square indicates where we're going to build it. It's behind the maintenance hangar and the ramp where the flight school has their small planes, so that's where it is.
So we're pulling in the airport driveway and we're going to the left?
Yeah.
Yep.
And then all the way to the left, you would see this hangar behind the existing maintenance hangar.
But there's gonna be two, not one.
Well, yeah, it's actually combined, but it's two phases.
And why do we need these? Why
There are
do we
people that
need?
want to base an aircraft here that needs to be hanging.
So please the people. Sure.
Go ahead.
It's simple, I don't need to be fresh, I
No,
just
no, I
want to
understand.
be,
No, again,
I
Bob,
want it to be, I want to
No,
understand it. That's my property.
we're-
Water is just,
Where is your property on this
You know,
picture.
if you, can you,
Yep.
165 Old Earl.
is it along here?
No.
No.
So it would be along this way, actually.
Well, that's the ramp to the southern hangar.
Okay, that's why I'm telling you that I am a simple woman. You see what I'm saying?
Why don't you point out what Burley Street is?
Old Burley.
So this
Old
is,
Burley.
this is,
I am exactly, that airport is right behind my house.
right.
I smell jet fuel in my yard. Those crop dusters, we call them, since 2014, they go off about every 3 minutes now. But that's not the point.
Her property's the fourth one from the right.
That's right.
From the bottom right here,
Yep.
in this
Fourth house
direction.
to the right.
Okay, so a lot of questions. Let me see if I can break it down and try to address that and try to make it simple to understand. So I believe one of the questions, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
So this is one hangar. Think of it as one hangar, but it'll be built in 2 phases. You know, it'll look like this building. We're going to build half of it, half this room, then we're going to build the other half of the room. We might build it all at once, but we want to address and let everybody know this is a long-term plan. The airplanes that are going to be kept in here are not the small planes that you probably see a lot of. They're going to be something like that. That's a twin-engine jet. And right now, there is inadequate hangar space on the airport to house these jets. So currently, what's happening is these jets are based someplace else, long distance from here, and they fly in with no passengers other than the crew, and they pick up the owner and/or passengers, and then they fly away. And then wherever their destination is, and then at the end of the business meeting or whatever the reason for the trip, they come back, they drop the passengers back off, and then they depart the airport again within half an hour, with the plane empty. So what we're proposing to do is to build them a garage, a place where they can keep their airplanes, thus eliminating half the cycles, half the noise, half the greenhouse gas emissions, half the disturbances. So it's cutting all those issues in half by having this based right on the hangar, right on the airport. So that's the reason for it. And it'll be an attractive building, nice tones, probably a lot like what we see on the floor here, that kind of thing, maybe a little more blue, but easy on the eyes. But that's the point of the construction of this. Does that answer some of the questions? Any other questions?
So basically, there's bigger planes there that have no place to store, and you've come up with a way to provide that for a profit, to charge the people that have these planes money to be able to park their plane there, right?
Well, it's quite expensive for this proposition to build a hangar.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we have to cover those costs.
Yeah.
Okay, good. You got another question?
Yes,
Get
You
to
gotta
the
use the
microphone,
mic.
I apologize.
Our viewing audience wants to hear you.
Yes. Thank you very much. This is Effie Paniotakis again. Thank you very much. My question to you is, so you just said that this would assist in eliminating air traffic because the planes would be able to be stored in the hangar, right? Instead of leaving empty. Right. How many planes can be stored in the hangar at once?
So the plan for this hangar would be probably 2 planes, one on each end.
One on each side. My next question is, at what frequency are you expecting these planes to stay in the hangar? So in other words, I'm trying to compare in my mind, well, what you're saying is you're going to reduce it by half, but in reality, if it's only enough for 2 planes, what is the frequency what are you expecting in terms of business with this plane and the plane being stored for 4 or 5 days at a time? I mean, I guess it's unclear, because then it would impact, to me, the number of, the reduction in the frequency of trips up and down.
Right. So typically, I mean, and it changes with the climate of business, but typically, I believe, and Peter is on the phone. Peter is the principal of flight level aviation. But Peter, correct me if I'm wrong. We're seeing 2 to 3 times. Is it per month right now that we're seeing that frequency, Peter?
Yes. So can everybody hear me? It's Peter Eichley, CEO of Flight Level.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you, but we're getting off the subject here. We're here to deal with wetlands.
Okay.
And we're getting into airport operations.
So-
So really, in the interest of time, I'm kind of going to say, let's stop this discussion.
But it does cut it in half.
Okay, good, thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Bradstreet, you had your hand up?
A walker is just, I can't hear when they don't talk into the mic.
Plenty of seats up front here, sir.
Okay.
Okay, is there any other questions from the public? Then look at, all right, I would suggest that we get out there and see this on the ground. I'd like to get out and have a site visit. So does anyone else have those same sentiments?
Yeah, I'd like to go for a site visit.
Well, the drainage is a big deal.
What would we
Vanessa,
see,
what do you
Peter?
think?
Would you have an area staked off? We could see where the hangar's gonna be?
I
We
think,
can stake it off, and we can arrange for flight level. I mean, it's an active airport. We don't want everybody walking around
No.
and through the airplane storage and stuff, but we can arrange for flight level to have a
We were
little
out there
golf
for a
cart,
visit.
pick everybody up and take them out there, I think.
We set it up through staff, Peter?
And we were out there for a visit 3 years ago, and we
Yeah.
were escorted.
We were escorted.
And that's what we would expect. So that's not a problem.
So if you pick a time, I think that flight level will accommodate you. I mean, if it's normal working hours, which I think it would be, and they're there Saturdays and Sundays.
Yeah.
Okay.
Aaron, could you
Yeah,
coordinate
we
that?
can help, we'll make sure we coordinate that with you all.
All right, good.
Okay.
Thank you.
That being said, I guess let's continue this hearing. now.
I think,
you asked me if I had thoughts, and then everybody else talked, and I never
we were
did.
talking about, no, we were talking about a site visit.
Right.
Okay,
Well, you
go
asked
ahead.
what I thought about one, and then,
Go ahead.
I'm open to the site visit. I also think that the scale of the stormwater control might be a bit beyond our
Our jurisdiction.
expertise. And I think we have the recommendation from staff that we should hire a peer review consultant for review of the stormwater.
Good point. Okay, so do we need to vote on that then? We'd like a peer review of
We're
the,
gonna make a motion? for
I don't
that?
think you have to, but it's probably better to do it, since it can take a quick procedural second to take a vote on doing the
All right,
peer
go
review.
ahead, Mike.
Well, Vanessa's idea, her motion.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion that the commission vote to hire a peer review consultant to review the stormwater control proposed for the project at 191 Old Burley Street, DEP file number 14-1408.
At the cost of the applicant.
Yes, at the cost of the applicant.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And now getting back to the site visit, would you want to
Sure,
get out there and see that?
sure.
Okay, so I guess the staff has two things. I think we got to set up for a peer review
Yep.
and set up for a site visit.
Yep, and I think on the site visit, what I'll do is we'll start with the applicant, because of the controlled access to the field, we'll work with them to make sure we get a couple of windows that we can get on the field, and then we'll reach out to you all and say, here's our slots.
Okay. Yep.
Would that be, Aaron, would that be at the same time that the peer review person comes out, or?
I mean, ideally, if that can be coordinated, again, I think we'll have to work with engineering and on the selection process, but again, we want to move quickly. We don't want to hold the things up for too long. So again, if the site visit can materialize quickly, we'll figure that out, and we'll have to take a second visit if the peer reviewer needs to get out there. I don't want to hold you guys up.
Okay, and you're looking to work in the spring, is that right?
We would like to.
Okay.
And you're okay with the peer review, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got a little time, a few months.
Just let us know what's convenient when you'd like to come and,
Yeah.
you know.
Thank you.
Yeah, staff will coordinate all that, and they'll just
Okay.
reach out. And we'll
All
work
right.
with them. Okay, so we need to continue this public hearing.
I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing for 191 Old Burley Street, DEP file number 14-1408.
Okay, when do they want to go, do they want to
Oh.
put it out 2 weeks or longer?
Great
Well-
question.
I think it's all a matter when you can get the peer review and when you
Yeah.
can get the site visit in. When you-
Again, we just,
Why
our
don't we
next
just
meeting
continue
is,
to February 8th, and
Yeah, and
if
see
it
where
doesn't
we're
come
at.
together, we'll just continue again.
Yeah.
Continue again? All right. Okay. I'll second to February 8th.
You all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, old and new business, I see that there were no meeting minutes for us to review in this time. Is there any other old and new business, Aaron, that we need to discuss?
I am not aware of any.
Okay. Okay, someone can make a motion to adjourn, please?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn the meeting of the Conservation Commission.
Second. Great.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.